Spring is in the air, and what better way to celebrate the season than by bringing the beauty of spring flowers right into your home. In today's crafting adventure, we'll be creating stunning flower decorations that will brighten up any room. Hi, my name is Katie from Lady Red Crafting. Let's bring the beauty of the season indoors with some colorful DIY magic. Let's start out with a wood blank from the Dollar Tree. And we are going to be using this uncrafting paper that I found on Amazon. And this is such a beautiful rice paper. It is from Stampery, and I will put a link for it in my description box below if you're interested. So next we're going to prep our blank. And to do this, I'm just going to remove the hanger, and then we'll grab our Mod Podge. And I'm just using the matte Mod Podge for this. And what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to brush the Mod Podge over the top of this blank. And once that has completely dried, I'm going to lay my piece of rice paper over the top of this blank. And I'm just going to position it where I want the print on this on the blank. Next, I grabbed a piece of parchment paper, and I'm just going to lay that over the top of the rice paper. And using my hot iron, I'm just going to iron this on to our blank. And I love this technique for decoupage. When you're able to do this on a flat surface and you're able to iron on the piece, you have no wrinkles. And that hot iron just reactivates the Mod Podge underneath, so everything glues on like a sticker. Next, I'm going to remove the excess rice paper by using a sanding block. And this is just a zip sander or a finger sander, but you can use a sanding block or a piece of sandpaper. An emery board works well too. And I just am going around the piece and I'm sanding off that paper. And we'll save that rice paper for another craft. Next, I grabbed a razor blade, and I'm just taking that razor blade and I'm scoring where that line was there originally. And I'm just going to remove a little bit of that paper with the razor blade. And once I've done that a few times, I've just kind of scored it. I'll come back in with that little zip sander and I just sand off any of that excess paper really carefully on the edge. And now to seal everything in, I grab my Mod Podge and I'm just going to paint a coat over the top of this rice paper. And now for some final touches. I'm going to use these rub-on transfers that I got from the Dollar Tree and this metal tag. And I decided to cut out the phrase, "Simply Blessed." And if you've never used rub-on transfers, these are great. They're a simple thing that you can use to add an embellishment to any piece. So I'm just going to take the backing off and place it onto my tag. And I'm using a popsicle stick, and I'm just going to rub that piece onto my little tag. And once I'm happy with everything that I've done, I'm going to go ahead and pull that off. And everything should just blend right onto your piece. Now, if you don't think it's all the way on there, you can always go back and re-rub on that transfer if you need to. And I had a little empty spot on the tag and I wanted to add a flower. So I had another set of rub-on transfers that I got at the local Ben Franklin, and I'm going to go ahead and just place that on there as well. And it's the same method where we're just going to use our popsicle stick and rub that onto our tag. Let's go ahead and put everything back together. I am going to go ahead and use a screwdriver here just to re-poke the holes back into my sign. And then we'll just reattach the hanger. Now let's go ahead and add our tag. And I'm taking some green ribbon here that I thought went well with my piece. And I'm going to use that to string on my tag and attach that to the top of our little sign here. And what I did was I just took the ribbon and I tied it around the knot of our hanger. And then I'm going to tie a really nice bow right there. Next, we'll just trim any of the excess ribbon off. To ensure that our tag stays into place, I'm going to be using this super glue tape that I found at the Dollar Tree. And this stuff works really good. And I'm just going to cut a small piece and add that to the back side of the tag and then just place the tag exactly where I want it. And that's all there is to it. This adorable sign is ready to hang. I feel like this is such a great piece for the spring. And if you haven't tried using rice paper, this would be a fun one to try. Let me know what you think in the comments below. So walking down the aisles at the Dollar Tree, I found this St. Patrick's Day pot of gold. And I am going to transform this into a fun farmhouse decor piece. First, we're going to just tape this down to a paintable surface. Next, I'm going to grab my Waverly chalk paint in the color plaster, and I'm going to just whitewash the black pot on this pot of gold. And while we have a moment, I want to tell you all about this fun playlist I'm a part of. Everything Crafting, and this month it's all about the flowers. I co-host this with my good friend Lisa at our Gray House, and our guest host this month is the talented Tasha from Sunflower Tasha DIY. There is a fun playlist down in my description box, so please check out the playlist and check out all the fun flowers for the spring season. Thank you so much for watching, and back to our video. So once this has completely dried, I'm going to go ahead and grab my scissors and remove that hanger. Next, I grabbed this great blank that I had found at Walmart, and it was already stained. And I'm going to go ahead and just flip this over, and I grabbed a paint stick. And using some miter shears, I'm just going to go ahead and trim that paint stick down, and we're going to use this as a hanger. Now I grab my staple gun, and we'll just go ahead and staple this down so we have a nice way to hang this piece. Now let's go ahead and flip this over, and I grabbed our little pot. And what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to kind of pull that variegated metal away from the piece of wood that's on the front of this pot just a little bit. And once I've done that, I'm going to then grab my Tight Bond Quick and Thick glue. We're going to use this with a little bit of hot glue to attach our pot to our blank. And once I had it positioned where I would like it, I used a tile and a few bottles of paint to weigh this down. And I let this sit for about an hour. And once I removed everything, I thought that it would look better with a full coat of the plaster color paint. So we just went ahead and did that. Now, once our paint has completely dried, you'll notice that there's a little bit of room in that variegated metal and the wood piece on the front of that pot so that we can stick some florals in there. And I grabbed these florals from Walmart, and I just went ahead and trimmed them up so that they would fit nicely in this pot. And these florals fit pretty snug in this pot, so I didn't need to use any hot glue. But if you felt like you needed to, you could do that. So once you are satisfied with your floral arrangement, I grabbed a little bit of Spanish moss, and I'm just going to go ahead and add that right underneath the flowers, between the flowers and the pot. And I felt like my moss needed a little bit of a haircut, so I went back in with some scissors and just trimmed it up a little bit. And for our final embellishment, I'm going to go ahead and hot glue a bow right to the front of our pot. And now our piece is complete, and I just love how this turns out. It has a wonderful farmhouse feel and will be so lovely to display for the spring and summer season. I would love to hear from you. What flowers would you display in your piece? Let me know in the comments below. And if you're enjoying this content, please consider hitting that like or subscribe button. It really helps my channel grow. Thank you. Let's make a birdhouse, perfect for a tiered tray or a shelf sitter. We're starting out with this wood birdhouse that I found at the Dollar Tree, and I'm taking my Waverly Antique Wax and we're going to stain the birdhouse. We're going to stain the whole entire thing except for the roof. We're going to leave the roof completely bare. And once that wax has completely dried, we're going to take our Waverly chalk paint in the color Plaster, and I'm going to do a nice coat of the plaster color paint on the roof of this birdhouse. And once our paint has completely dried, I go ahead and I grab my Mod Podge. And for this project, we're going to be using the matte Mod Podge for this. Next, I'm going to paint that Mod Podge all over that roof. And I love these brushes. They're from Plaid, but they come in a 3-pack. They're great brushes for Mod Podge. So if you're looking for a brush for Mod Podge, I would try these. These work really well. Now, once that has dried, I'm going to take this little piece of rice paper and I'm going to fit it to the roof. And once I'm happy with the placement, I'm going to grab my parchment paper here. And I'm just going to lay the crease of the parchment paper right on top of the crease of the roof here. And I'm using my hot iron, and this is a little bit tricky, but I'm going to just iron each side of the roof with the rice paper. Now, you don't have to do this if you don't want to try using the iron with the roof. You could also just apply the rice paper when the Mod Podge is still wet and then use a piece of cling wrap. I just thought this would give it a little bit smoother look, and I felt brave enough to do this, but you need to be really careful not to burn yourself because it is a little bit tight in space. And now that your rice paper is attached to your birdhouse, I'm going to take my zip sander here and I'm going to sand in a downward motion to remove any of that excess rice paper. And now here's a quick look of what our little birdhouse is looking like. I now want to come back in with some Mod Podge, and I'm going to take that Mod Podge and do a nice light coat over the top of the rice paper to seal everything in. And once our Mod Podge has dried, I'm going to take one of these little birds, and I got these birds on Amazon in I think it was a 12-pack last year. I'll put a link for them down in my description box below if you're interested. And I just am going to hot glue that little bird right inside that birdhouse. And now this adorable birdhouse is complete. I just love how this turns out. This would be a great piece on its own in a tiered tray. You could also add a stand to it if you wanted to make it taller or give it some height on your shelf. So this could do a lot of fun things. It's such a versatile piece. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Every year I say I don't need anything more from the Dollar Tree, but every year in the spring they come out with some new pieces in the Crafter Square section. And I really love this wood wreath that I found. So let's start out by grabbing our Waverly Antique Wax and staining both sides of our wreath. And if you haven't done this before, I just take a baby wipe and I wipe that wax all over both sides. And if it goes on too thick, no problem. Just grab another baby wipe and wipe off any excess. Now while our wreath is drying, let's grab our Believe cutout. And I did get this at Dollar Tree, but I've seen similar ones at Walmart, Hobby Lobby. These are pretty easy to find. I'm going to set this down on a paintable surface, and I'm going to start out by taping this down so it's easier to paint. Next, I grab my Waverly chalk paint in the color Plaster and a small brush, and we're just going to paint the top part of this Believe cutout. And once that paint has dried, I'm going to take that Waverly Antique Wax and I'm going to flip the Believe sign over. And on the back side, I'm just going to stain it with the wax. Now, once our Believe sign is complete, we are going to set that aside and work on our flowers. So these flowers I did get at Ben Franklin, but I've seen similar sets at Walmart as well and at Hobby Lobby. but any flowers that you prefer you can get. So I'm just going to take this bundle apart and I'm going to start trimming up some of the pieces in this pick. And what you're going to see me do here is I'm just going to pick a few of the flowers off of this pick and clip them and make a little swag. And once I have the swag laid out how I would like it, I grab my floral tape and I'm just going to wrap that around a few of the stems here until everything is put together. And then I'm going to add the remaining picks to that same swag using the floral tape. And now that we have the base to our floral swag, I'm going to grab my twine. And I'm going to take that twine and I'm going to use that to wrap around where the floral tape is to cover that up and give it a more polished look. And once I was done wrapping around that twine, I just went ahead and I kind of tucked that into the twine that was there and used a little bit of hot glue to make sure everything stayed into place. Now let's go ahead and start putting everything together. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to make a hanger for our wreath. One of the things that I've found from crafting through the years is that sometimes you start making a piece and you create the whole entire thing, it looks beautiful, and then you realize you don't have a good way of hanging it or displaying it. So it's one of the things that I really try to do while I'm creating the craft now is think about where I want to hang it or how I want to display it so that I incorporate the hanging method into the craft ahead of time so it's not an afterthought. So for this wreath, I'm just doing a quick twine hanger on it, but I want to do it before I add anything else to it. Now for the rest of the finishing touches, we're going to be using that believe sign we made, the swag, and 2 bows. And I'm going to take my time a little bit on this piece because I want to show you guys some of the little things that maybe don't show up in some of my videos. So before I glue anything, I always try to place the item that is going to be glued to it on top of the item first without gluing it. And sometimes I'm going to grab like a pencil or something like that to just kind of mark on the back piece where I want the glue. So I don't have a lot of excess glue popping out of my piece, so it looks so much more polished and finished when I do it. So that is what you are seeing me doing here with the believe sign. Next, let's go ahead and add that floral swag. And I'm going to put that right at the top of this wreath, right underneath where we put our hanger. So I'm just going to pull that hanger tight and then decide where I want to glue that. And we're going to just glue that into place. And next, I'm just going to hot glue my little bows onto the swag. So I'm starting out with a raffia bow first, which is a little bit bigger and it just gives it a really nice farmhouse look. And then in the center, I'm going to match everything up with the twine that we used earlier and put a bow right on top. And now our beautiful wood wreath is complete. I just love the look of this. This is so beautiful. I'm going to be hanging this in my office for inspiration. I feel like this is such a fun piece and you can exchange the words out in the wreath for something different that might inspire you. What word would you use to inspire you? Let me know in the comments below. Thank you for joining me today to create these beautiful spring flower crafts. I hope you enjoyed these crafts as much as I did. And if you're looking for more fun and creative craft ideas, be sure to check out this next video. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you never miss an update. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time, craft more, stress less.